As parents, we all want the absolute best for our kids. But when we think about their future, are we really architects carefully building on a solid foundation? Or are we just kind of guessing? Let's be honest and really dive into this.
This question, wow. In the pressure cooker that is the Indian education system, this is what keeps parents and students up at night. It feels like this giant crossroad, and the pressure is immense because the choice feels so permanent. The stakes are just incredibly high, and the right way forward, it's almost never clear.
So, how do we end up making these huge, life-altering decisions? Well, if we look closely, it's often a mix of things, right? What society says is a good career, what our child's friends are all doing, maybe a fleeting interest in a subject, or sometimes, maybe it's even about our own unfulfilled dreams. But what if all those well-meaning reasons are actually pointing them down the wrong road?
And this right here gets to the absolute heart of the problem. We see it all the time. A child who has the soul of an artist is pushed into engineering. A natural-born leader is steered towards a quiet lab. We're essentially trying to fit square pegs into round holes, and we're completely ignoring the fundamental blueprint of how that child's brain is actually wired.
When there's a mismatch like that, frustration is inevitable. We see our kids putting in those long hours, trying their absolute best, but the results just aren't there. We tell them to just work harder, but what if effort isn't the real problem? What if there's some kind of invisible barrier that none of us can see?
And here it is. This is the hidden factor. Scientific studies show that a staggering 80% of all learning struggles are not caused by bad teachers or a lack of motivation. Nope, they're caused by weak underlying cognitive skills. So, let me just say that again, because it's so important. For most kids who are struggling, it is not a willpower problem. It's a processing problem. Trying to force more and more information through a system that's already bottlenecked, well, that just leads to burnout. It's a mechanical issue, not a character flaw.
Okay, so take a look at this. This shows you exactly how it works. Information comes into the brain through our senses, right? But before it can become real knowledge, it has to get through what's called automatic processing. Think of these as the essential little gears in the mind, like attention and memory. If those gears are weak or slow, the information gets stuck. It literally never makes it to the higher level thinking part of the brain.
And when kids keep hitting this invisible wall, the consequences are, well, they're painfully familiar to a lot of families. It's that constant struggle with subjects like math. It's those frustrating, careless mistakes on exams that aren't about being careless at all. And over time, it's that slow, steady drop in confidence that turns into real, crippling anxiety about exams.
Now, I know that sounds a little bleak, but this is exactly where the whole story shifts. Because as soon as we understand what the real problem is, we unlock an incredibly powerful, science-backed solution. It turns out, our brains have a hidden superpower that changes absolutely everything.
For centuries, we've kind of held on to this myth that intelligence is fixed, that you're either born smart or you're not. But modern neuroscience has completely busted that myth. The reality is, our brains are amazingly adaptable. They are constantly changing and rewiring themselves based on what we do and experience.
And that superpower has a name: neuroplasticity. It's just the brain's natural, built-in ability to create new pathways and strengthen the ones it already has. So what does that mean? It means your child's mental wiring isn't set in stone. It's a dynamic, living network that we can actively help them improve and strengthen.
And hey, this isn't just a theory. We can actually see it happen. Just look at this. On the left, that's a neural network before training. But with very specific mental exercises, you can see how the connections get denser and stronger after just 2 weeks. And look at it after 2 months. That's actual physical growth inside the brain.
The easiest way to think about this is like upgrading a computer. What we're talking about isn't just adding more files or software. It's about fundamentally upgrading the hardware itself, giving the brain more RAM so it can process things faster, and a bigger hard disk so it can store and access information way more efficiently.
Okay, so the brain can physically get stronger. That's huge. But how do we take that incredible power and use it to make better career choices? How do we finally move away from all the guesswork and towards a smart, data-driven plan? Well, it all starts with understanding your child's unique mental blueprint.
This is where a really cool concept called a cognitive signature comes in. Think of it like a mental fingerprint. It's a super detailed profile of an individual's specific cognitive strengths and weaknesses.
And here's the kicker. It's a far more accurate predictor of future success than any report card, because it measures raw ability, not just how well they did on last month's test. This chart builds the bridge between those innate skills and actual careers. It makes it so clear. You see that strong reasoning skill? That's absolutely vital for cracking tough exams like JEE or NEET. That powerful memory? You can't succeed in UPSC or law without it. And high visual perception? Well, that's the backbone of fields like architecture and design. This is how we start to match a person's natural gifts with what a job actually demands.
And what's so important to get here is that this isn't just about some distant career 10 years from now. Look at this wheel. These exact same core skills, logic, memory, perception, they are the fundamental building blocks for doing well in every single school subject right now, whether it's math and science or literature and history.
So, the big question is, how do we actually find out what a person's cognitive signature is? How do we get that data, that clarity, that can change everything? Well, thankfully, there's a clear, simple, and structured way to get there.
It's a simple 5-step online assessment journey. It starts with just setting up a profile. Then there are interactive instructions, so technology is never a barrier. Next, your child engages in a series of tasks that measure those core cognitive skills. The system then gives objective scores and, this is the most important part, it generates a personalized plan to strengthen any areas that need a little boost.
And here's the proof in the pudding. This is a real report. You can see the student's cognitive profile back in June, with some clear weaknesses in coordination and memory. Now just look at the results 2 months later in August. Every single area has improved dramatically. This isn't just wishful thinking. This is real, data-driven, measurable growth. So what's the ultimate goal here? It's really to find that beautiful sweet spot where 3 things come together: your child's passion, their genuine interests, and their core cognitive skills. When their natural mental strengths support what they love to do, they don't just succeed, they absolutely thrive.
So maybe it's time we stop thinking of potential as some fixed number or a grade on a report card. Your child's potential is a living, breathing thing. It's an expandable architecture that we can actively choose to build and strengthen together.
And that brings us right back to that crossroads we started at. But now we have 2 very different options. We can continue down that familiar path of pressure, stress, and just plain guesswork. Or we can choose a new path, one that's guided by scientific clarity, where decisions are based on real understanding, not just hope. The choice, really, is ours to make.
A child's future shouldn't be a lottery ticket. It should be an architecture, carefully and lovingly built on a foundation of clarity. Your child's potential is not a fixed number. It is an expandable architecture. It's time to move beyond guesswork and start building.
Thank you, Namaste.